Hello everyone, this is Player One with Basement Hero, bringing you more news on the BlizzCon 2014. Now I'm going to give you a quick speed summary of the StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void campaign panel. This one was one of the most exciting for me. I've always been a huge StarCraft fan, and they brought out quite a bit of news for this campaign. Let's see, where did they start? They started with the Protoss story. They want to wrap up the trilogy of stories, but they want this game to feel very, very, very Protoss-y. They want this whole story with Amon and the epic end of times. They want that feel with the Xel'Naga for this game, so should be pretty epic. I think it's going to be awesome. They then went on to talk about the Protoss feel and what it actually feels like to try to create that kind of Protoss, about how they're all about the code of honor. They kept calling them space samurai. Protoss should feel very high-techy, very noble, very small numbers, like army of one type feel. And then they talked about the Kala, which is kind of like the unity and collective of the Protoss, how they're all kind of united. The small numbers, I would say, comparative to something like the Zerg or the humans, where the Zerg is, well, that's what it is, just tons of numbers, and humans, tons of people, but the Protoss, they wanted them to feel smaller. They went into next talking about why the Protoss have been kind of MIA for the past couple games. They didn't talk too much about it. They just said they kind of talked about the history of the Protoss from the original StarCraft. They talked a little bit about Zeratul appearing in the previous two StarCraft 2 games, the Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. But they were talking about how the main hero to the game is going to be Artanis, and how he is in charge of the Protoss now, ever since they left Ire when the Zerg took over Ire, and they went to go meet up with the Dark Templar, but Artanis is kind of in charge now, so that's who this game is based around. Artanis wants to retake Ire with the Golden Armada, and that's kind of where the game starts, actually. They talk about how Zeratul is basically the harbinger of doom. He's always there telling bad news, like, hey guys, watch out. And that's kind of what he's going to be this time as well. He's going to be telling Artanis, yo dude, you gotta help protect the universe. They wanted Zeratul to be kind of more of a mentor, or as they put it, an Obi-Wan. So he's not going to be the main hero, but he will be around. They talk a little bit about how Amon corrupts the Kala and makes the hybrids and things like that, so Artanis has to disconnect and flee on the Spear of Adun, which is going to be the giant, super giant ship for the Protoss in this game, which is going to have all the carriers and motherships and not swarms, but a whole bunch of zealots and all kinds of stuff. That's where the army is going to come from. The Spear of Adun. And I'll get more into that in a few minutes here. So, Artanis, he wants to fight to help his race to retake Ire to stop Amon. And that's pretty much what he's all about. Part 1 of the game, as I was saying, starts with trying to retake Ire from the Zerg. Then it goes into helping the humans and helping Raynor on Korhal, and that's what was playable at BlizzCon. Then talking to more of the details of the game itself, like new challenges, how, like in the other games, you maybe have a wall of fire trying to catch you, or you have blizzard storms trying to freeze the army. So in this game, they say it's going to be a map called Unleashed, which is kind of later in the game, and it's going to be kind of like a space mission where you'll be moving your entire base, instead, not like making more of a base or anything, but actually sliding tiles in a space setting, so the tile will move around the map, moving where your nexus might be to gather more minerals. So that should be pretty interesting. Next, they went into talk more about the art, and a lot of the art and ideas that go into the game, and they were showing in-game graphics of different areas like Ire and what the cities on Ire might look like, even though they were infested with a lot of Zerg. They went into talk more about Korhal and the city after Kerrigan and all them go to take out Mengsk and how it's in destruction and they're trying to rebuild it. They talk about Shakuras, which is kind of like the Dark Templar homeworld, and they're showing cities there and how it's kind of like Ire, but a little different. They show something about Slain, which is the home of the Tal'Darim, who are the people who worship Amon, so their world. And another one they showed was something about Cybros, which is a space station, and it's the home of the Purifiers, which is a weapon that Artanis hopefully will get later in the game. Next, they went in to talk about cutscenes and the real-time cutscenes of the game, not just like the Blizzard cinematics, but the story of the game. They showed some stuff, like one of them was on the Spear of Adun, where they were trying to explain to Artanis stuff about the ship and them walking around. It looks really good. It looks very legit. They talk about different character models. One of them was Vorazun, who was a female Dark Templar. They showed a character model for Artanis, Zeratul, Carax, who is a phase smith. He's kind of like the ship engineer. And then Rohana, who is a female preserver, which is kind of like an advisor to Artanis. So they showed some character models for those 5 characters. Next, they talked about the army customization, which in the previous games, you had the Terran and you wanted to get stronger armies like siege tanks and Vikings and just get all kinds of great army upgrades like that. Then they talked about the Heart of the Swarm, how as a Zerg you were looking to evolve your characters. And they were thinking, well, yeah, with these ancient Protoss, what are you going to do? So they talked about how Artanis was going around the universe looking for different Protoss factions and combining them. So you can kind of think of it as fighting styles, is what I kind of took from it. First, they showed a typical zealot who would charge into battle with the blades on his hands and, just fight head-on like that. They showed the zealots losing to a siege tank and some marines. So next, they showed a different fighting style for the zealot, where they had some kind of staff, and they would run in and whirlwind. They would spin around in circles and kind of AoE everything down. So that was kind of that is what they're aiming for, I guess, for the different ways to fight with the same troops. Should be kind of interesting. I'm curious to see how that turns out. Next, they talked about the Spear of Adun itself, how it's not just a ship to travel on, but it's actually going to be customizable, and it's going to support you or fight with you in combat, and they'll have different, maybe super moves, like an orbital strike, or different abilities like a time stop. And the ship itself is going to make missions very unique, and they said with all the points, and even if you go to do all of the different missions in the game, you will never get enough points to get everything on the Spear of Adun, so customizing the ship itself is going to be very cool. Then they briefly touched on something called Allied Commanders, which is going to be a different kind of game mode where you will pick a commander from any race. So maybe you'll be Kerrigan, maybe you'll be Raynor, someone else, and it's going to be a co-op type leveling up system mode. And it was, as I said, very brief. They didn't go too much into it, but that was that. And the most exciting parts to me of this panel were a few little hints they gave. They gave a hint of Tassadar. They didn't say what, but he might make an appearance of some kind. They did show some Dragoons, which were one of my favorite units from the original StarCraft game. So Dragoons are going to be coming back. I don't know if they'll be usable in multiplayer, but they will be in the single player at least. And same with maybe Reavers, don't know, that was brought up in the Q&A, but we don't know if they'll be in or not. It's just an option since, as they were saying, the Protoss go around looking for all the different factions of Protoss in the universe. And the number one cool maybe guest appearance, Fenix might be back. They said he might have an appearance in some way, in some mode. So maybe he won't be in the campaign, maybe he'll be in that Allied Commanders part, maybe he'll be in some kind of bonus mission. Don't know, but those 3, that's going to be pretty darn cool. Anyways, that's a quick speed summary of the StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void panel. This is Player 1 with Basement Hero. Talk to you next time.